The Magicians Podcast is brought to you in proud association with the Magic Circle, Alakazam Magic, and Gigio.
And now you're part of this global search. So if you see anybody on the street that looks healthy, looks young, looks like they could work in that situation, politely go up to them and say, no offense, but I have a friend that might be able to give you a really wonderful job.
Come on. Yeah. Hey, yo, it's my life, my time, my rights, my rhymes, my grind, my struggle, hustle, sweat in my blood too. I'm ready to smell fear, I smell a lot. My competitors fled scared, cause they smelled I was hot. I want it all, excess, the sex, much success, stress us. I want it all, no less, so come on.
One of the most creative magicians on the planet is in my hot seat this week. I'm speaking to Kevin James. Hello my friends, welcome to the Magicians Podcast. I am your host Richard Young and this is week 2 of the Illusionists fortnight here on the feed. If you weren't here last week, I spoke to Simon Painter. He's the producer of the Illusionists and he gave us an incredible insight into how that show has got to where it is today. This week, I'm speaking to one of my true magical heroes. I was over the moon when he agreed to speak to me. I have to thank David Williamson, who put in a kind word for me and said to Kevin he was safe to speak to me. You might not be aware that David Williamson has also sat in my hot seat here on the Magicians Podcast. It's episode 14 on the feed. If you've never listened to it, go and take a look. It's a fantastic hour with the great man. If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do it now. We are at Magician Podcast, or you can give our Facebook page a like. Just go to facebook.com/Magicians Podcast. So this is quite exciting. The Magicians Podcast has an exclusive announcement right here today. The producer of The Illusionists, Simon Painter, has asked me to help spread the word for some upcoming auditions for The Illusionist show. If you want to be a part of this show, this is what you need to do. I'm going to read out his message here. The Illusionists are auditioning for new artists for tours from November 2016 onwards, which include Paris, London, New York and Asia. We're looking for diverse and original acts to consider for various positions. We want to see links to full performance videos uploaded to YouTube or Vimeo of acts preferably shot in front of an audience. Successful applicants will be invited to Paris to audition live on the 9th, 10th and 11th of March. Short Showmo promos will not suffice. So if you want to apply, then you need to email auditions@theworksent.com. That's auditions@TheWorksent.com. Good luck! This interview was recorded in the lobby of Kevin's London hotel during the Illusionists West End run. This episode truly is very close to my heart because Kevin is one of my true magical heroes. I was a little bit nervous during this one. I hope that doesn't come across too much. Here he is then, in my opinion, the man who creates the most magical magic on the planet. My hero, Kevin James. I am here with Kevin James. How are you enjoying your time in London so far, sir?
Well, it's been a blast.
Enjoying it?
Yeah.
You into Groundhog Day routine-wise now, or is it you still socialising and finding some time to see the city?
I'm actually seeing lots of interesting things. I'm a big history freak, so I'm loving it here.
Brilliant. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, I've done a little bit of research. You were actually born in France, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, well, yes, technically. I was born on an American Air Force base in France.
Okay.
By two American parents.
Your dad was a pilot, I think, is that right?
Pilot, yeah, he flew rescue helicopter and jet fighters.
Amazing. So how long were you in France for?
Just 2 years.
Okay, good stuff.
And then Charles de Gaulle decided he was going to make a decree that anybody born on French territory was eligible to be drafted into the French Foreign Legion at the age of 18. So my mom said, well, you can have that citizenship back when we left.
So you grew up in Michigan, I think?
We moved around to some different Air Force bases. Then when my dad retired from the Air Force, we I grew up in Michigan. I call that home.
Yeah, sure.
And they're both from Michigan, so we kind of went back where their families were. And it's a very small town, 2,000 people, one traffic light. Yeah, great place to raise a family, I suppose.
Brilliant. So I understand you probably fell in love with magic the same way the rest of us did when you were a kid. But did you? Your career began. You were a strolling magician, I think, in restaurants at the beginning. Is that true?
Yep. You have to start out with close-up. That's the only thing you can afford, and it's good to start at the bottom. So
Sure.
So yeah, I love close-up. I always have. I still do. Only now, the lens that when I'm developing close-up material now is, can I do it on TV?
Sure.
So I don't really work on anything that I can't do on TV.
That's really interesting. So can I ask, one of my favourite routines of yours is the Perrier with a twist.
Yeah.
So was that created when you were a strolling magician, or was that created for television?
That was absolutely developed in a restaurant environment, and it was developed as a multi-phase routine so that I could pretty much stop at any point in the routine and then resume later. And it seemed natural to do so because, the waitresses bring the food and you have no control over that. And
Yeah.
lots of interruptions in restaurants, so it's definitely segmented. So I could, if I saw her coming out of the corner of my eye, I could quickly get to that end point and say, okay, I'll see you later, folks, and
Yeah.
and enjoy your dinner. So.
Did you enjoy being a close-up magician? We've spoke to lots of close-up magicians on this podcast, and actually the reality is some of them don't actually enjoy it because it is so repetitive and the environment hampers you sometimes. Did you enjoy it when you were performing in restaurants?
I actually loved it. I still do. For me it was a 3-hour rehearsal and a 3-hour advertisement for my, private party business.
Sure.
It was. And the same things that you learn, that you're forced to learn in strolling, like how to deal with, idiots, how to, just all the things that you run into are the same things that happen to you when you're on stage. So it's a great training ground for later, for bigger things.
So your most famous stage routines that we're all familiar with, were they created when you got the gig at the Crazy Horse in Paris in the early 90s, or were you doing something different when you were performing there?
The Crazy Horse is a funny thing. I had a friend, Rudy Kobe, and he was at the Crazy, and I said, Rudy, get me in there. I got to get in there. And Monique Nakachian she still is the agent for that gig, and she never liked my act.
Okay.
For years, Rudy would bring her my latest videotape. It tells you how long ago. And she was like, oh, that thing with the midget is just so distasteful. I don't think they would like it. So she would never show it to the boss, right? And then every time I'd do something, I'd re-edit the tape and make a new tape and get some new footage, re-edit it, give it to Rudy, and then finally one day, she was also booking this show, which is popular now. It's the Cabaret du Monde.
Yes, the TV show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it used to be called Sebastian Seyfou, the Crazy Sebastian, and Patrick Sebastian's the host. He still is. And she was booking acts on that. And one day, somebody dropped out at the last minute, and so my tape was on her desk, and so she calls me up, can you be here Friday? Yeah, absolutely, we'll be there.
Yeah.
And we killed, and Sebastian loved us, and we scored big on the TV show. And I said, Monique, just give the boss at the Crazy a copy of what we just shot on this TV show. Sebastian pretty much gave me the stamp of approval, and so then she, that was the validation she needed. Then the boss at the Crazy was like, where have these guys been all my life? And
Okay.
So we worked there for 3 years, and what we did in the show there was we had the chaplain. I showed him the bowling ball, but he didn't want that because he thought it might break some of the things on the stage, because the stage was fully mechanical. It had all these little moving parts and things built into the stage for turning poles and for moving sidewalks, and just had a lot of crap on the stage, and it was a very tiny stage. So he said, no, leave the bowling ball out, we don't need that. So let's see, we did the chaplain, we did the amputated arm, first version of that, and then we did the broom suspension with the vacuum cleaner ending. So Antonio would come out as a cleaning guy, and I would do the broom suspension, levitate him. We did all this hypnosis stuff with lean shoes built on the cart, so he'd kind of lean over and all that. and then do the broom suspension. Then I'd take him off. Then he'd pull out this big vacuum cleaner and start vacuuming the stage, and a very loud vacuum cleaner. And then he ended up hiding on the cart, covering himself with a cloth. And then I grabbed his own vacuum cleaner, sucked the cloth up into the hose, and then opened the lid, and then he'd pop out with his hair standing straight up like Don King. And then I'd put one finger under his nose and grab his shoulder and lift him out of the vacuum, and then let go with my right hand. So the only thing holding him up in the air was one finger under his nose. His hands and feet are all flailing in the air, and I walk off stage like that. And so that was our Crazy Horse set. It was pretty tight. The operation hadn't been invented at that time.
Sure. Antonio's been with you for 30 years, I think, hasn't he?
32.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you two meet?
You know, we were both working at this chaotic dinner theater in Anaheim, California. It was situated right between Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm, and I was working both of them, doing close-up. And this place, it was a nightclub called Crackers. Now it's a strip club. But back then, it was this wonderful place where you take somebody, if somebody's having a birthday, you bring the whole group there, and everybody gets drunk, and you know, it's a little naughty, it's a little loud, it's a little chaotic. It's, you know, the waiters are also jump up on stage and sing. There's a live band. And it was an amazing place because, you know, as a training ground for a magician, first of all, there was a very small stage. It was about 4 meters square. You had a 5-piece band on there.
Oh, great.
With a piano. You were surrounded 360 on the floor with tables. There was a stairwell going up to a balcony. You were surrounded by the balcony 360, people sitting at tables around the balcony. And you had, the dressing rooms were up there in the balcony. So you had to carry your act down those stairs, set it there in the middle of the stage, share it with the band, do your act, pick up your stuff, and go back up the stairs.
Yeah.
So as a training ground for a magician, you really had to be careful with your material. You know, you surrounded 360, lower and upper.
Yeah.
All right. So, and most of the audience was drunk.
Okay.
So, you really learned how to fend off the heckles and all that stuff. So he was doing strolling Charlie Chaplin work. He would walk around and just mess with people. That was his job. It's just to have fun and mess with people. And, you know, we worked there for about 2 years together before I asked him, hey, let's work on something together. And he, you know, I could see how fast he connected with the public. I mean, he'd walk up to the table and they were like, oh, we love you. Oh my God, he's so cute. Look at this guy, you know. And then he had his bits that he would do, but it was just so instantaneous, his connection, you know, and he was funny. And so I didn't hire him because he was short. I hired him because he had a great connection and he was funny. And he had this beautiful character that he had, you know, developed. He'd studied Chaplin, and he really he had it down.
Yeah.
And he made it work. He made it fit him. Mm-hmm. And and then I never realized, you know, for 2 years that he had done magic before. Siegfried and Roy in the 70s used to do a thing where they shrink Roy down. Well, he was the little Roy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, wow, I didn't know that. That's
so if
amazing.
you go back and look at the Siegfried and Roy TV specials, that's Antonio when they shrink him down.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're in Paris for 3 years, I think. Is that right?
About, yeah.
And often doing 3 shows a night, I understand.
Quite
as well.
often, yes. 7 days a week.
So did you feel like did you want to leave that show at the end, or did your contract just naturally end? They changed the acts, or?
Well, yes. I'm a tinkerer. I like to be in my workshop, and I like to tinker with new things and try to build new things, and you know, I tried to put some new stuff in the show, and the boss was well, you know, this is what I hired you for. I want you to do that act. I don't want you to put new stuff in. So that became frustrating, and then you know, I just felt kind of stagnant, and but you know, we liked working there. The great part about the Crazy is that they had such a big reputation in Europe that you didn't have to send out your tape anymore.
He just said you're in the show, and
Well, Monique became my agent for TV in Europe, and so it was so easy for her to just, she had all these TV opportunities all the time. She could say, well, he's working at the Crazy these months, so let's book 3 TVs coming in and 3 TVs going out at the end of each contract, and so I got a lot of footage. I worked a lot of countries. And she didn't have to send out the tape once. She just said, they're endorsed by the Crazy, so take them. They go, yeah, okay. So it was great for my career. That's where my career really started, is working there. So leaving the Crazy, I got an opportunity to headline in Vegas.
this was at the Riviera.
Yeah, and Shimada was leaving, and I was taking his. So the producer had seen my act, and actually I had heard, funny way this happened is, I'm working the Crazy, and we had celebrities come in all the time. Madonna, Prince, they all come in. Jean-Paul Gaultier, they all come in at different times. Prince got the time that he cut the ass out of his pants.
Yeah.
He got that from the Crazy. They
okay.
look for little fashion things that they can, the wig designs. I mean, Bernadette was cutting edge, and so they all come in. And Kutash was the producer of Splash, and he came in one day, but the secretary said, this was after the show, the secretary of the Crazy said, oh, the producer from Vegas was here. And I go, who? And she said, Jeff Kutash from Splash. And I said, why didn't you tell me before so I could say hi to him or whatever, and she said, well, I didn't know. But so I had just gotten some great photos done with the girls at the Crazy. Bernadette let me take the girls to a photo studio, and he set it up, and I got to take some pictures with some of the showgirls there at the Crazy. And so I had just gotten these photos, and I had a print. It's actually the print. The first time I was on Magic Magazine. That's the photo.
Oh, I know the photo. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a big one made, packaged it up really nice, sent it by FedEx to Kutash's office, and said, thanks for watching our show. And then as soon as he got it, as soon as he got back to the States, he opens this up. It's on his desk.
That's
Thanks
lovely.
for watching the show.
Yeah.
And he contacts me, and he says, Shimada's leaving. I want you to go in. I love your act, and blah, blah, blah. So he promoted me as the Toast of Paris, which I thought was hilarious. But that's how I got the gig in Splash. And so I had to get out of my contract at the Crazy. I was staying with Gaetan Bloom at his house.
He's a great friend of yours, isn't he?
Yeah, first time I met him was like our first season at the Crazy. We only had an apartment. We had to find our own apartments to live. So our apartment was for like 2 months, and then so Antonio and I were at the Mayet Magie, this really old magic shop in Paris, and hanging out. And Gaetan was behind the counter. I'd never met him, but I saw him there, and I knew of his reputation, and wanted to meet him, and so we became friends, and but that first time we met, Antonio just kind of blurts out, hey, does anybody have any leads on an apartment? We really need an apartment. And Gaetan's like, well, I got a big house with lots of rooms. Why don't you come stay with me for a while? And so we did, and we stayed there for 3 years. So
Wow.
We became great friends, and so I said, you should take my spot. I got to go to Vegas, so take my spot at the Crazy. And he says, well, I'd love to, but Monique won't book me. And Monique is this French agent, and she always said, well, I can't push Gaetan because the boss only likes international artists. He wants people from other countries and blah blah blah. And I go, look, he's as good as anybody from any country. I mean, he's at the top of the list, And so she wouldn't do it. So I said, Gaetan, what kind of promo video do you have? And he said, I don't have any promo video. So he said, but I just finished a 17-episode series with Tamarez in Spain. I mean, he was on 17 times,
Yeah.
So he had all this material that he did in Spain. So we edited all that together, and so it's funny because he's working in Spanish. I kept that tape with me for weeks, And every time I'd go to work, I'd watch the boss and see if he was in a good mood or a bad mood. And many times he was in a bad mood, and I just kept the tape in my backpack. And then one day, he's in his office with like 5 or 6 friends, and they're laughing and having, fun and blah, blah, blah. I go, sorry to bother you, boss, but I've got your next great act right here. He goes, pop it in. So he pops it in. And, he's doing his act in Spanish. And, it's a TV audience. They're going crazy, and all the people with Bernadette in the room went crazy, and they loved it. And he goes, "Where is this guy?" And I go, "He lives a mile and a half from here."
Amazing.
And he stayed there for like 12 or 13 years. So
that's amazing. So you go to Riviera, and you're in the show. So how long were you in that show before you moved to the World's Greatest Magic Show?
Riviera lasted about 3 years, and then there was a little time off in between there. We did. Caesar's Magical Empire happened in there.
I never saw that.
It was a beautiful place, really beautiful. I mean, it was spectacular. And there were 3 rooms, a large one, a parlor size, and it's similar to the castle. Big bar. They also had a big dining area downstairs with the close-up magicians, so you'd go in and have dinner. And they kind of ran it like a dark ride almost. I mean, it's like you go here, now you go here, you're scheduled for here, you're scheduled for here.
Okay.
We had to do sometimes 5, 6, 7 shows a day.
Wow.
So, yeah, you were tired at the end of the night.
What I wasn't sure about, I saw a little bit. Were you the producer of the World's Greatest Magic Show?
No, I was an associate producer.
Okay.
I didn't take any risk. I got paid a salary,
Okay.
So that was good. Somebody else took the risk, and I was the guy that helped bring good acts to the show. So I would present the people that I thought should be in the show, and then the guy taking the risk would go, no, no.
Yeah. I saw the show in 2006, and I really loved it. It was a little bit off the strip, the Greek Isles, I think it was called.
Yes, it was a terrible casino. It was a piece of crap casino. And
it was a lovely room for the show, wasn't it?
It used to be the Debbie Reynolds Casino before that, and I think it was like the Paddle Wheel or something before that. But it's not there anymore. They demolished it a couple years ago.
They do that in Vegas, don't they?
Yeah.
So obviously while you're doing that show, how long did the World's Greatest Magic Show run for?
Boy, 7 or 8 years, I think.
Okay, so
I lasted about 6 years.
Okay, and while it was going on, you did America's Got Talent in 2007, I think.
Yeah.
Can I ask why you decided to do that?
I didn't really want to do it. I did second season. First season was Nathan Burton did it.
Yes.
And he did pretty well. And Nathan was clever in that he understood it's not if you win or lose. I mean, most people are going to lose. It's how many times you can get on.
Because of the size of the audience.
20 million people in one shot.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you can do that's that big anywhere. And so he, even when he got kicked off the show, he was like pitching to the producers, well, let me produce all the winners at the end, I mean, he was so clever about it. And I didn't go on the first season because I didn't know how they were going to treat magicians, and I wanted to see it happen before I took the risk. And at that point, I thought, I still really don't want to do it, because it is a big risk. I mean, when you sign their contract is really big, and you sign away things that, they can legally create a double of you, okay? Somebody that looks like you, is dressed like you, film them from down the hall, and have you smashing a chair against the wall, and then, say, well, he really didn't like what the judges said about him, did he? I mean, they can do that in the contract, and they can, create any story they want with you, and they can make you look good or bad. It's completely up to them. There's no, and Nathan said, I'm out there. Nathan had his own show in Vegas at the time, and he said, I'm out there signing autographs, and he goes, 80% of the people came because they saw me on that TV show.
Wow.
And he says, you got to do it. And I had World's Greatest at that time, and I said, well, I still didn't. I still was like, I really don't want to do it. And then, but Nathan talked to the producer and said, don't even audition this guy. Get Kevin James. You need him for this year. And the producer called and said, well, you don't have to audition. Just show up here for the first taping and blah blah blah. So basically, Nathan kind of forced me into it.
Sure.
And I said, all right, we'll try it. So it was a very stressful
I can imagine.
time.
The operation, which I think was your first audition?
No.
That was the second?
No, we did the chaplain first.
Okay.
And they don't give you any special lights. They don't give you anything. Everybody's the same. Lights are full. Walk out there and do it. And the first thing, they have different characters. The first, Hasselhoff was the good guy. Piers Morgan was the bad guy. And the other two were whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was Sharon Osbourne was in it.
Just like the English version. It's no different.
Yeah, only Piers was the good guy on the English version at one point.
Yeah.
So they switched characters to fit whatever. So the first thing they do is they tell you, okay, you got 3 minutes to do your act. So, okay, well, my act is normally 4 minutes. All right, so I'm re-choreographing, re-editing music to try to compress it. And then the day before the show, they go, well, we have too much show, so you got a minute and a half. So,
right.
It's like I've never, when I go do TV shows, and I was already doing lots of TV shows at that time, no TV show on the planet treated me like that. It just felt so unprofessional.
And they're trying to mess with you to a certain extent, aren't they?
I think they like to create drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, plant the seeds for drama. So, yeah, they loved it when David and Danya, when David...
Well, he bit, didn't he?
Oh,
yes.
He was like, you people suck, I mean,
Yeah.
he was just... he went off on him, and I think they loved it. That was great TV.
Sure. So when you got to the semi-final and you did your amputated hand...
Well, let's start. The first thing out of Piers' mouth, because I had to edit so much, I didn't have time to take the pieces out of the box, so I had them laying on the floor. Box was already vertical. Yep. And they didn't edit. They didn't show this part. But hi, I'm Kevin James. What do? I'm a magician. And now the first words out of Piers' mouth: why are Charlie Chaplin's decapitated parts laying on the floor like that? And I have to think, and I'm thinking, this is going to be on air. 20 million people are going to see this. The pressure's on. You get that ball in your throat, and I go, well, I'm a big fan. He's my hero. All right, this is my magical homage to this superhero of comedy. I hope you like it. And all right, show us what you do. So I snuck out of that one, but they never actually put that in the edit. But that's kind of set the tone for me, and I'm like, oh my God, did I pick the wrong thing? So now I'm doing the act, I'm stacking them together. He comes to life. Well, there's one moment when I tap and the head falls off.
Yes.
And it's a fake accident. And I thought, oh, what an idiot! They're going to think it's a real accident, and then they're all going to buzz me.
Yep.
And I go, I picked the wrong trick to start with. And but funny enough, they reacted to the head going down the stairs. And I make sure that the head was going to go down those stairs. And I told the director, I said, look, I'm going to put that head. So make sure you have a camera on that and a camera on the judges when that head goes. Fine. So, and he did. So Hasselhoff runs and tries to pick up the head, and Sharon Osbourne is laughing her ass off. And finally, I get to put the head back on, and he's alive, and he's out of the box, and everybody's happy. So I missed the buzzer on that. So I got lucky. Second thing, they said, do your best thing next. Because if you don't get through this round, you won't get a chance to do your best thing. And we'll let you do your best thing again later in the finals if you make it that far. So I said, all right, I got to do the operation next. And we were in World's Greatest, so we were tight. It was a tight machine. I had all my regular people that helped me there. We knew what we were doing. We could do it in our sleep. And so the operation went well. So now you get into the top 20, and you get a phone call from all the producers, and they, here's Simon Cowell on the phone with me. He's at that time the top guy on TV, and I'm thinking, this guy can make or break your career like that. And he says, I really like that dark comedy stuff you do, and I said, well, the next thing I want to do really is completely different. got a thing with a little 6-year-old girl in the middle of the audience.
Oh, the rose.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little piece. You stay tight on her face, and she makes it move, and it just sends electricity through the crowd, and it's a sweet moment, and it's a completely different vibe from before. It shows a different emotion, and he's like, well, what other dark comedy stuff do you have? I said, the only other thing I have is this amputated arm thing, but I don't think it's really strong enough. And I said, let me try the rose. He says, well, ultimately it's your decision what you do, but I don't think you're going to get through if you do the rose. So why don't you just try to sex up the other thing? Add some sexy dancer and some smoke, and
They've got all of the budget for that, haven't they?
Well, yeah. So we did, so I spent a week getting an ulcer thinking, do I listen to Simon Cowell, or do I, completely ignore what he has to say and do what I want? And you just have this feeling like, is he going to take it personally if I ignore what he says, or can, if he really likes it, can he move your career, So I did what he said, and I did the hand, and Piers was kind of a jackass, and the other thing. So right after Piers says all that, Jerry Springer's the host. Now this part didn't make it on the edit. Jerry Springer puts the mic in my face and says, well, you got 30 seconds to tell America why they should vote for you. And I said, well, all of these other entertainers, all these singers are doing other people's songs. They're doing Stevie Wonder songs. They're doing, all these amazing artists. They're doing their other work. All of my illusions, I start from scratch, from zero. Okay, I build it from the ground up. I develop it, and I think creating all my own material, I should get an A for effort on that, and that should count for something. So that's, and well, thank you very much. And so, but none of that made the edit, But so they slate you for the bus. Okay, basically they got 20 artists on that top 20, and 10 of them have to go down the toilet.
Yep.
All right. So I'm sure the producers are backstage going, yeah. All these people are going to go down the toilet, and it's not a real contest. I mean, the producers are not going to let the public decide who they put on TV. The producers are in control of that.
The clip of the operation went viral though on the internet, didn't it?
I was surprised. It did go viral, and I still get work from that viral clip. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The creation of that illusion, I mean, it's an incredible piece. I heard you say somewhere else that you wanted to create something that they couldn't buy anywhere else.
Well, I try to do that with all my stuff, but that was inspired by Mike Caveney. Mike's a good friend, and I was at his house one day, and he's got a steamer trunk full of materials just on the sawing in half, and someday he's going to write this massive book on sawing in half. And he was showing me some photos of Johnny Eck and Raja Raboid, and they did a similar kind of. Johnny Eck was a half guy, and the system fascinated me, and there were letters that he had that were Johnny writing back to his family. Oh, now you have to understand this was like the 1930s, so people were more superstitious. They were playing small towns.
Oh yeah.
And he said, I hopped off the table and ran towards the audience, and the first 3 rows climbed over the next 3 rows trying to get out of the theater. He said it was pandemonium, and but so people were more susceptible to shocking images, I think. And I just felt that it was a fun concept to try to modernize, and so it had gone through a lot of different incarnations, and I still have some things I want to add to it. So it's still a work in progress.
Really, there's still other bits.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it looks perfect.
No, I'll tell you what I'm working on. At the very end, after we cut him in half and lower him to the small table, I want to throw a cloth over his head, cut his head off, take his arm behind his back, cut his arm off.
Oh, with your arm illusion.
And just like chop him down to as small as we can get,
That would be amazing.
and then put him back together, and then yeah.
That would be amazing. Did you create the illusion before you'd found the right person?
Yeah, well, you can only go so far until you have the right person. And a friend of mine, Gazzo, well, before that, another friend of mine, Bruce Block, heard of a guy. He was working a cruise ship, and he had heard of a guy from a stagehand on the cruise ship, and so he gave me the tip, and I searched the guy out in Utah, and his name was Curtis Walker, and and he was a sweet little Mormon boy that didn't smoke or drink, and was just so awesome. He was a great friend and part of the family, and he had some surgery and ended up passing away from the surgery. So Curtis was really amazing. And then I have friends all over the world, and now you're part of this global search. So if you see anybody on the street that looks healthy, looks young, looks like they could work in that situation, politely go up to them and say, no offense, but I have a friend that might be able to give you a really wonderful job, traveling the world and seeing the world, and is there any way we can contact you? Do you have Facebook? Do you have a phone number? Do you have anything like that? And then email it to me. And because I collect them, I search them out, and you have to have more than one, because if somebody gets sick or decides they don't want to do the show anymore, or there's 1,000 things that can happen. But so you have to. I've got 5 right now.
Wow. Okay.
On deck.
You only use one, so
I use one.
So the 4 are just sort of there. If they know the deal, they might get a phone call.
Yes.
Yeah. The Illusionists is building as a franchise, isn't it? I've heard that there's going to be another inventor in the show in Mexico. Are they going to do the Operation Illusion?
He's my stepson.
Oh, okay.
He's and basically what happens is, whenever Simon, the producer of the Illusion, shows the video of our promo video to producers, there are 2 tricks that they really want in the show all the time: the water tank and the operation.
Of course.
And they say, if you can give us those 2 tricks, that'd be great.
We'll sign the contract.
So I am creating a second version of the operation, and my stepson is going to do it. And only he's going to be the alchemist. He's not going to be the inventor. He's a little too young to be an inventor.
I see. Okay.
The Magicians Podcast brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
Gigi-O, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigi-O.
It's tax return time, and Gigi-O has made my tax return so much easier this year because everything is in a nice, neat place. It will save you hours in the office every single week. It generates PDF contracts and invoices for your clients. It tracks your payments and even updates the diary on your phone automatically. Read what others are saying about it and take a free 30-day trial at gigio.co.uk. That's Gigi-O spelled GIGIO.co.uk.
Whether you're new to magic or a seasoned professional, Alakazam Magic are here to help. Alakazam have been supplying magic to magicians for well over 20 years. Not only do we carry all the latest and greatest magic tricks, books and DVDs, but we also manufacture one of the finest ranges of magic tricks in the world. The Alakazam name is synonymous with great customer service, educated advice and honesty. So if you're shopping for new magic, make sure you check out our website, www.alakazam.co.uk, or pay a visit to our fully stocked shop.
It's an amazing question that a friend of mine came up with when I spoke to him and said that I was going to interview you today. your career now, I mean, it's an incredible career that you've had, Kevin, and are still enjoying. You've performed in, I think, on television over 70 countries.
91.
91, is it now? Amazing. And obviously you tour the world with the Illusionists, and that's been going on for years now. However, this, I think, is the most interesting question I can ask you. If you'd have known where your career is now, would you have sold the floating rose to other magicians, or the snow, or is there any part of you that regrets selling your creations to other magicians now that your career is where it is?
Yeah, I never really wanted to sell the snow. The rose, I felt I was at a point in my career, I probably would have done the rose again. Again, it was Mike Caveney who brought Copperfield to ask me to show him the rose, and he said, absolutely, I want it in my, I want to do it on TV. And so I was nobody, like no name at all. No, I was not even on anybody's radar. And the minute Copperfield did the rose on TV, I got validation as an inventor. I got validation, my deal with David, I knew he was really cheap. He wasn't paying a lot, especially in those days, for routines. And so I traded him a video endorsement. So I got Copperfield on tape saying, you got to watch this guy's video. He's the best things in sliced bread. He's funny, he's blah, blah, blah. He's got all this interesting ideas. And that went at the beginning of my promo video. So that went out to all the agents. So to have the biggest guy on the block give me an endorsement at the beginning of my promo tape when I had no name whatsoever, I think it made the agents watch the video. So that was worth more to me than $100 that he was going to pay for the trick. So I think that helped me. And then after he did it on TV, I released it because I wanted to get credit for it, because now everybody thought I was doing his trick.
Of course.
So now if you put it out on the market, you can, at least for historical sake, put your name on it.
So you are part of this incredible show. And when did you join the show? 2011, 12?
I was in the initial production. I don't even remember. It's 3.5 years ago, something like that. We opened at the Sydney Opera House. It was a joint production with our producer and the Sydney Opera House. So we had the best time slot. It was Christmas time. It was summer, middle of summer down there. All the kids are out of school. They're looking for stuff to do. Lots of tourists come, and we were there for a 3-week gig, and that's all we thought it was going to be.
Okay.
And but we had the promotion department at Sydney Opera House behind us, and so it was a massive success. I mean, completely sold out, broke box office records. It was a huge hit, and then it started to get some legs. They were able to take that information and sell it to other countries, and it grew slowly. It was like a month here, 2 weeks here, and you'd always have these big gaps between. So a year ago from now, we started on Broadway for a 6-week run, and it was to promote the launch of the North American tour, which was like a 47-week tour. I mean, it's all done through these pre-sold subscription programs where these theaters, they sell, they have members, and they can pick and choose what shows they want to see for that season. So, you don't even have to promote it that much. I mean, 80% of the tickets are already pre-sold. So
it's amazing. So
it's great. It's great to get in that, but they book those a year in advance. So we did Broadway. We were the top 4th grossing show on Broadway. I mean, again, the only people that beat us were like Lion's King and Book of Mormon and a couple others. And it was the first time in a long time that a big magic show was successful on Broadway. And the head of the Nederlander organization, which owns half the theaters in Broadway, the old man Nederlander, came to our opening night party and told Simon, we need we need more things like this on Broadway. There's, too many plays and, too much of the musicals and, normal stuff. We need some good variety entertainment, and this is it. And so, when the top guy on Broadway tells you that, you're probably going to come back the next year. So there's a second unit there now. And so all last year we launched into our North American tour, and we're working pretty hard. I mean, they kept us going. We had like maybe 2 weeks off here and maybe a week here. And so your ability to develop new material is harder because you don't have time to do it. You're traveling all the time, and if it's something small, but trying to put something big on the truck and work on it when you're touring is not easy. So other problems arise basically out of that. So whenever we have like a month off, which we do this January, I treasure it because that's the time when I got to work on new material, and put a new roof on my house, things that I can't do when I'm on touring. So this last year, they booked Broadway and the West End at the same time. They split our cast in half. Andrew and I came here, 4 other guys went there. They added people to both units. We're playing Broadway and the West End at the same time, and then when that's finished, all the new people will go away, and we'll go back to our nucleus and continue the North American tour in February.
Do you prefer touring, or would you rather be in a venue like Vegas where you
can
live?
Sleep in my own bed at night?
Yes, and you can, yeah.
That's the goal. I'd like to. I'm sure that the Illusionists will get a gig in Vegas shortly. I have no doubt. I mean, they just have to find the right deal, where you have a property that wants to be that wants to participate, that wants to help make it a success. Most of the venues now in Vegas are complete 4 walls. You have to rent the room, do all your promotion, and hopefully you can pay your salaries, and hopefully there's something left over, which is complete lunacy to me. I mean, it's not how it should be. The hotel should participate. Since you're bringing people to their property who are going to gamble, they should participate.
In the West End show, there's an incredible illusion at the end of the show. And I've watched your Penguin lecture, and what I love about it is that in the Penguin lecture, it's a model. And you say, maybe someday someone will make this. And then I go to the West End show, and the curtains open, and I saw you stood on the platform, and I went, oh my goodness, they made it.
He made it, yeah.
It's an incredible principle. We don't need to talk about the principle, but was it what you expected it to be? I think magicians who listen to this will have an idea of what's going on anyway. But did it present some challenges when it became a full-scale version of the model that you created?
Yeah, there are things that you don't realize until you actually build it. But there was, it took a while to get it so it looks right, and but we did it. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. We're still tweaking little things, but I was surprised at how well it worked so soon.
On your Penguin lecture, you talked that you would produce 2 big flags.
Yeah. And
that's been changed to CO2. Is there a reason why you made that change?
Wasn't enough cover.
Ah, I see. That's interesting.
And I mean, I still like the idea of having all that space behind you to produce something. I mean, there's, that still might be something in the future. The problem was presentational mostly. Before, when we first started doing it, it was hard because we did it right after the snow. It was hard to get people to stop looking up at the snow coming down, because even after you turn off your machines,
it takes a while.
It takes a while for that stuff to come down. And the trick is just turn off the light, because if there's no light up there, you don't see it. But the trick was all about attention control. It was get them to stop looking up, because you only have a few seconds to go, look, this is an empty space. This is a big empty space, and now it's full of people.
Yeah.
So we reworked the whole. We changed the music. We rewrote the music so that it was boom, and it closed off the snow, and you thought it was done, and and we went to a blackout. So I went up through the curtain and up the stairs, and now the music started to kind of as a reprise, and the curtain goes up and the lights are off above where the snow is, so if there's any residual snow you don't really see it, and all the focus is back up on the stage. So we're trying to, by using the techniques of theater, to really control their eyes to where we want them to be. And now, when the curtain goes up, I tell a little story. I mean, I say, it was a lot of fun to play in the snow, but it was much more fun to play in the snow with your friends. And then hopefully that's enough time for them to see that I'm alone on this platform and that it's thin and there's lights underneath. It gives them a little time to register the scene, and then, but not too long. And then originally we had a curtain that would go up behind me because Simon was a little concerned that the balcony could see the secret, and he didn't want some New York reviewer sitting in a corner in the balcony. Well, I could totally see, so he was over precautious, and even if people see how it works, they don't know what they saw, and everything's gone at the end, so there's no way to reconstruct what you saw.
Yeah.
So we ended up using it was pretty frustrating process because we had these big CO2 tanks backstage on the North American tour, and they're called Dewar tanks. They're very large, and they're used for the low-lying fog. So we try to get these cryo guns, and they're used in discos mostly. They hook them up to these big Dewar tanks, and they cool off the crowd with these big plumes of smoke. Well, it wasn't giving us enough push. There wasn't enough pressure. It wasn't a big enough plume of smoke. So I had to do a lot of research on CO2 and how to get more pressure and how to and then Simon said, "Have you tried a fire extinguisher?" And we didn't. And then I bought this humidifying system, a $5,000 humidifying system to hang over the thing because we heard that more humidity in the air would make the smoke thicker, and and we hung that and we tested it and it maybe 5% more, wasn't enough. So we shot some fire extinguishers and they look great. Now we were using those, and then when we come to the UK, the fire extinguishers are different. The cone is different. It's a thin, flat cone, and the apertures are smaller on the tank. I think the pressure might be about the same, but maybe not. But we were getting like half of the plume that we were getting from the American one. So we ended up taking my cones off of the 2 fire extinguishers that I had, and they had to make an adapter to get my cone on the British fire extinguishers, and that improved it quite a bit.
It's just extraordinary listening to this.
The lengths.
But you wouldn't watch the show and you wouldn't give any thought to the fire extinguishers, and that's what's incredible about Illusions. It's not just all the work and everything, it's also a massive expense, like you said as well. The trial and error with it is extraordinary. I'll put you on the spot a little bit, but what would you say was the best day of your career to date?
Wow. I don't think I've had it yet.
No?
Well, we shot a TV special for NBC last July, and it just aired, and the response has been pretty good. Simon shot the special with extreme respect to the magicians. We all look great. NBC originally ordered a 2-hour special, and at the last minute they said, well, we've only got an hour time slot, so if you want the time slot, re-edit to an hour. So they had to re-edit to an hour, so they had to make some really hard choices about what to take out, what to leave in. But they still have they still have all that material in the can. They can use it later, I suppose. But I was really happy with how the final edit came. It's a complete departure from all these street magic specials. And the opening of the special is shot like Birdman, okay, the movie Birdman, where it's all one long continuous shot. We have all these dressing rooms that are set up like what our character would be. Like my inventor dressing room looks like a laboratory. Sperry's is all gothed out. Hobson's is all like Liberace. It's like a 5-minute continuous shot, or what looks like a continuous shot, and it's beautiful. It's so well lit, and they spent so much money on the decoration and the scenery, and it's shot in a beautiful theater in downtown Los Angeles and the Orpheum Theater in LA. And I watched how it looked on screen, and it's just gorgeous. It's a beautifully shot special, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. I mean, they make us all look great, and Simon said that the response has been magnificent from NBC and the public. So I'm sure there's going to be more, and so I think having that air, on a huge network. Next time, I hope we get a better time slot, because we were on. There was 2 hours of Matt Franco Street Magic special. It's all card tricks, and then us. So it's kind of like, I hope the audience wasn't magicked out by the time they got to us.
Yeah.
So I think they could have, and they didn't really promote it that much for us. But so I think having that air on a big,
it's going to be a game changer and open up some more opportunities.
I think it's going to be a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Is there a flip side? Do you have a worst day of your career memory?
There's so many. Yeah, the worst. I did a show in Korea at the Sheraton Walker Hill in Seoul, and it was a 17-month gig, 7 days a week, 2 shows a day. And the good part about it was my own show. Okay, it was a big illusion show, a comedy illusion show. And it was a cast of 30 people. 20 of them were dancers, 10 were other artists. And I didn't know how to run a big production like that. So I was kind of micromanaging things, and the dancers would oh, this guy got drunk and, hit on this guy's girlfriend, and, it's just like, oh my God, the minutia of that was driving me crazy for 17 months. And then, I just realized I need a company manager that can buffer me from all that. You handle it.
Because you're also a performer in the show as well. Got your own problems.
Yeah. And, I was just felt so pummeled by that after 17 months that I went home and I didn't do anything for 4 months. I went home beaten and just tried to reevaluate, am I in the right business or not? Because I don't like this. I don't like how I feel. And then after a few months of just detoxing and just trying to love magic again, and I realized, it was just the way I had set up the organization, that I needed somebody to handle all that crap.
Sure. Can we play word association? It's always a dangerous game, this.
Yeah.
Let's start. Gaten Bloom.
Brother.
Simon Painter.
Future.
Jamie Raven.
Friend.
David Copperfield. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Matt King.
I'd take a bullet for that guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Chris Angel.
Darth Vader.
Siegfried and Roy.
Legacy. I'm impressed with their legacy. Yeah.
I cannot wait to ask you our final question, because I think you will have an amazing answer. I hope you will. What do you think is the biggest problem with magic today, and how could it be fixed?
All right. I think the biggest problem in magic today is camera tricks, cheating on TV because you don't have the time or the budget to do it right. Because TV chews up so much material so fast. You book a series, you immediately lose any conscience about stealing material because the pressure to deliver is so high. Oh, we'll fix it in post should not be used for everything. Stopping the camera to cheat and then hiring a bunch of people to pretend like they're surprised is not good. I think if you can recreate that same effect live on stage, that should be the line in the sand. Okay? I understand about cleaning things up for TV. You've got YouTube, people are going to play it over and over and over and over and over and over. They don't have that option live. So you might have to modify the method a little or cheat a little to clean things up for TV. I understand that. But to just stop the camera, take somebody out of a box, start the camera again, and run over it with a car, and then the guy gets out of the car or whatever. It's just, that's just plain cheating. And it's not, I think it's too far. And I think most of the time is, these guys go into production meetings for these TV shows, and they say, well, we can spend a lot of money building something, or we can just cheat, and it's free, So, I understand that, but enough is enough. I don't know how to fix it, I don't think it's going to be fixed. I'm a little pessimistic about that. A lot of these young magicians seem today that they want a shortcut. They want to skip to being famous immediately, without having to pay their dues or to develop chops, develop an act, develop, good material. They just want to skip to the glamour gigs, And I don't think there's any shortcut, you got to just do 1 million shows and listen to the audience. Sometimes TV, you can edit things to where people look a lot better than they really are. Somebody at Cirque hired Chris Angel without ever seeing him perform live. They said, well, he's got a big fan base. That's enough for us. And the first couple years, I don't know how the guy survived all the bad reviews. I would have probably hung myself. There's a lot of problems, actually. I could go on. I think David Blaine was awesome because he showed us that you didn't need $1 million to do a TV special, and you could put the focus more on the audience instead of the trick. And that was a beautiful lesson for magicians. But I just feel that I think street magic has kind of run its course, and I think having a few little moments in a show of street magic and being out like that is great, but hours and hours and hours of it, I'm a big fan of Henning, and I was a big fan of Copperfield, and they were both my heroes, and so I kind of like the playing to a larger audience and better produced shows. I hope I'm surprised. I hope I'm completely surprised with what's coming up, and I'm sure I will be. There are going to be great performers coming up, and I'm still positive about magic in general. I'm proud to be a magician today, and I can't wait to see what comes along next.
Kevin, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for meeting me and finding time for us. I really appreciate it.
It's a big pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
And obviously, this is now one of my favourite episodes of the Magicians podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Kevin, thank you so much for talking to me. I sincerely appreciate it, especially because I know you took time out of the West End run to come and have a chat with me, and I sincerely appreciate it, and I know our listeners here will too. If you've never bought the Kevin James Penguin Lecture, go and do it right now. You will thank me. It is without question one of the best value things you can buy in magic. It's over 3 hours long, and Kevin talks through basically his life's work in enormous detail And that incredible illusion which closed the Illusionist show, the appearance platform, well, there's a model of it, and Kevin talks in great detail about how the illusion actually works, and well, it's just pure genius, so you won't regret it. Go and buy the Penguin Lecture right now. I promise you'll absolutely love it. If you'd like to buy some of his marketed effects, you can buy them from the man himself at kjmagic.com. This is obviously the end of the Illusionists fortnight. I hope you've enjoyed it, but of course don't panic, we'll be back again next Friday for another brand new episode of the Magicians Podcast. I'll see you then. Have a great week. Bye bye.